If you were born in the 2000s, you're one of the people I want to commend right now for your resilience. You have grown up in a time of war. You've never seen our country not at war. Your parents and teachers probably taught you about 9/11, while at the same time, you no doubt heard the battle damage assessment numbers and those killed in action reports on the evening news and conversations on the dinner table and from your teachers. Afghanistan then turned into Iraq, then back to Afghanistan, then back to Iraq. Rinse, repeat for 20 years. You were probably in elementary school or junior high when faith and trust on a systematic level began to rapidly dissolve. The financial system crashed in 2008. And do we even know? Yeah, I mean, we do, but officially, who is to blame on that one? Can you even trust the bank? Is the Fed and the government for us or against us in that? Could you lose your home? Were your mom and dad fighting all the time because of the stress of what happened in 2008? We asked all of these questions. And in the aftermath, the mass protests, the Occupy Wall Street that you probably don't remember, everybody decided, I guess it's the fault of those giant corporations. It was yet more doubt thrown onto institutions we at least have some faith and trust in, because they would, at one point, do the right thing or be held responsible if they didn't. You've seen your church come under attack, your faith. Suddenly the religious values that, you may have grown up with, listening to in Sunday school, are now being called bigoted. You've witnessed race riots, cops, firefighters being demonized, local businesses burned to the ground. People may have been killed in your hometowns. Politicians and media appeared to drink it all in like a cold beer on a hot day. You've been brought up in an era where war was declared on American faith, hope, trust, pride, history. I don't even think you probably even know our history. And yet, here you are, right now, listening to this program. Good for you. Good for you. For people my age, it is really, I can't imagine being your age. I can't imagine it. I grew up in a completely different America. Makes me sad you'll never know summer like we did, that you'll never, most likely you have not participated in a baseball game or a football game that wasn't organized, or a soccer game that adults weren't telling you when and where to play. You probably have never just gone out with your friends and just started a game in some abandoned field or some park just to play for yourself, and you make up the rules and you decide what's right and wrong. You solve the arguments. Times were different. Less people locked their doors. That's what I like about the place I live up in Idaho. It's much more like it was when I was growing up. It's just simpler, quieter. You know your neighbors. Everybody waves to each other as they pass each other in the cars. You can rely on one another. Parades were more common. And no one expected an anti-American rioter to come in and spoil the day. We loved our country, although we didn't think our country was flawless. If you joined the military, it was called joining the service because that's how it was viewed. It was service. Now it seems like nobody sends their kids to service if they're rich. It's a way to get out of poverty. It's a way to get a free education. It's not about service. By and large, opinions were debated. Today, opinions are used as an excuse for violence. You know, we could see Marxist and Milton Friedman or Thomas Sowell on television debating Marxists at universities or on Oprah. And it was done where everybody walked away in the end and shook each other's hand and said, I respect you. I disagree, but I really respect you. That doesn't happen. It's certainly probably not happened in your schools. If you grew up in the 2000s, man, everything has gone sideways rapidly. Who was running the country during the 2008 financial crisis, the recovery, Occupy Wall Street, the beginning of Black Lives Matter? No one calls it out, but it was Barack Obama. Everything began to spiral out of control, and the America that we used to know became unrecognizable. Now, it's not his fault, all of it at least. He put the pedal down and he accelerated things. But this has been in the plans for a long time. And America wanted hope and change. We wanted change. I wanted change. All of us wanted change from what was happening, you know, with the Bush administration. The government was seemingly getting too big. Nobody was being held responsible. We wanted transparency. That's what we meant by change. But that's not what we got. And we know that because Michelle Obama talked about it on May 14th, 2008. She was immediately pulled from the campaign trail after this speech. But I want you to hear it one more time.
And Barack knows that we are going to have
Michelle
to
Obama in Puerto Rico.
We are going to have to change our conversation. We're going to have to change our traditions, our history. We're going to have to move into a different place as a nation to provide the kind of future that we all want desperately for our children. And he is the man to do it.
So in America, we used to agree on the future. We saw certain things as self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator. And I know that might sound like hogwash to you, but it's a mission statement. It's not something that we did. It's something that we were trying to strive for. And as you will learn as you grow older, you make a ton of mistakes in life. And a country does as well. And the idea is to learn from those mistakes, but you have to have history and you have to know what really happened to be able to correct those mistakes. Otherwise, you're going to make them over and over and over again. And I fear we're doing a lot of that. But let me take this line by line if I can, or at least as much as I can today. She just said, we're going to have to make sacrifices. Have we made sacrifices? Well, we've made sacrifices of our time. I can't imagine. I mean, I just can't get over how much time we spend arguing about stupid stuff right now. How much time we have spent in politics. Politics, especially national politics, it shouldn't be really hardly even on our radar. It should all be local politics, but we don't pay attention to that. So many people, maybe your parents, have sacrificed their dreams and their job. Small businesses. Home Depot could stay open, but not the locally owned Ace Hardware store. We've sacrificed our liberties in exchange for the collective. We have made a sacrifice of our honor in Afghanistan. We've sacrificed our place in the world, our credibility really with our own allies we have sacrificed. And we are certainly sacrificing right now our relationship with anyone who holds the dollar as a reserve currency. In many ways, we've sacrificed you, the 20-something, in the last 15 or 20 years to some sort of social experiment, not only with drag queen story hour and everything else that we have no idea other than history. We have no idea of how that's going to turn out, what kind of mark these things will leave, good or bad. We don't know. Never been done before. But we've also socially experimented on you with technology. We've sacrificed our safety on the streets from mobs, BLM, Antifa, January 6th, the shootings every day in Chicago nobody seems to care about. We've sacrificed our way of life. We've sacrificed our medicines and so many things. And this didn't start with Obama. It started with the globalist, the idea that, trade is unlimited and we can just be consumers and not makers. Now, that just seems wrong intuitively. But when we start to hit shortages like medicine, we really see how stupid it is. But we have sacrificed our common sense, because are we doing anything about these things? We've sacrificed our doctors. We were told we could keep our doctors, but many of us lost our doctors. We've lost the scientific method. We have lost and sacrificed debate and critical thinking and the search for evidence. We have sacrificed an awful lot. And it's all called the new normal. All those things that we've sacrificed. We're now sacrificing, we're going to sacrifice millions of people that will most likely starve to death in the next 2 years. Why? For political reasons. That's really all it is. We're going to sacrifice people's lives, and we are going to forever change the lives of people here in America. And it's just going to be called the new normal. Michelle then went on to say, we're going to have to change our conversation. I didn't know what she meant was change the rules of conversations. Basically, you can't have a conversation. Any kind of spoken or written word now has to go through the woke filter. It's where we lose and sacrifice many of our freedoms and liberties. You want to make a public statement about a Snickers bar, you better craft it in a way that checks off all the intersectional, feminist, and LGBT boxes. You, because you're in your 20s, may not understand how important freedom of thought and real diversity is. That's the diversity of thought. You cannot make progress without benchmarks that can be measured, which is the scientific method. And you'll never make progress unless people are comfortable to say, that's a stupid idea. Well, I disagree with you on that. And you have it out. And most times you'll find that both sides have a point. Not all the time, but many times. And just by arguing, you're like, oh my gosh, I see why you're thinking that. Oh, I understand you now. It's still wrong, but at least I understand. Let me explain it this way. We can't talk like that anymore. Telling the truth is now a dangerous taboo. George Orwell once wrote, during times of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act. And that's where we are. The church, her teachings, the sacraments, now been labeled bigoted. Our deep religious founding as a country, that proclaiming one's faith, whatever faith that is, or no faith at all, how we got to a place to now where that's a revolutionary act. And the first warning sign of it came from Michelle Obama. She was in Puerto Rico. This is 2008. She's on the campaign trail. And she says famously these words.
And Barack knows that we are going to have to make sacrifices. We are going to have to change our conversation. We're going to have to change our traditions, our history. We're going to have to move into a different place as a nation to provide the kind of future that we all want desperately for our children. And he is the man to do it.
Now, just a few days, then candidate Obama said the words, "We are 5 days away from the fundamental transformation of the United States of America." So we know when this was put into play, and it is being finished now. Yesterday, I played this clip from her where she was saying Barack knows that we're going to have to make sacrifices. And I told you about all of the things that we have already sacrificed. And then she said, we're going to have to change our language, our conversations. Well, that's been fundamentally transformed, hasn't it? Aren't you having conversations now that you never thought you would ever have in America? I love the Ricky Gervais line saying that, you're never going to get bashed and kicked off Twitter or any social media for 10 years ago saying there's no such thing as a man that can get pregnant. Because we didn't say it back then. Because we didn't think we had to. Think of all of the things that we're saying now to each other, that we're talking about, having conversations about, men in women's changing rooms, pronouns. You can't define a woman. Our Supreme Court Justice nominee could not define a woman. Don't think that would have happened prior to 2008. Or the fact that all white people are guilty and there is no salvation for them. Our God and our Constitution, they've been run out of town. The teachings now and the sacraments, they're bigoted. Who would have ever thought that with the founding of this nation, that proclaiming your faith, and I don't care what it is. I don't care if you're you follow the Church of Piglet from Winnie the Pooh. I don't care. The fact that we can't talk about our faith openly without being called bigots is remarkable. The conversations that we have had on terror right now, that January 6th, the clowns that went in and actually did something, I want them in jail. But to say that that was a serious terrorist insurrection is ridiculous. And yet the conversation we just had, where's the DOJ on Jane's Revenge? Where's the DOJ on Black Lives Matter? The fact that we can't even talk about Black Lives Matter. The conversations that have happened in our National Archives over our founding documents where they had to put warning labels on them because they were offensive. Yeah, I think we've changed our conversations. I think we've sacrificed. She goes on to say, and we're going to change our traditions and our history. Well, I think that has happened. Our traditions, look at the state of the church today. Look at the state of our holidays. Look at the state of just Independence Day, July 4th. How many of us, the diehard constitutionalists, the ones who love America, go to a 4th of July ceremony and we're kind of like, all of our traditions have been debased. All of our heroes have been debased. All of our institutions debased. What do you believe in today? I would say that's changing our traditions. Our foundations of life, liberty, and property gone. Your personal business was your personal business. And you had the God-given freedom to expand your opportunities to the best of your abilities, but you don't anymore. We fought a bloody war to create an experiment to break free from overlords. We fought another bloody war to guarantee that freedom we love so much included all skin colors. There's no other nation on the planet that did that. There is no other nation on the planet where freedom and opportunity are so widely shared and available regardless of race or creed. Nowhere, yet we don't think we're special. Our traditions and our history are being changed. Occupy Wall Street said it was those dirty 1%ers who were enslaving the other 99%. Eat the rich. And how did Obama respond? He sympathized with them. Do you remember that? He said the radicals in the Occupy movement reflected the, quote, broad-based frustration in the country. Later, when discussing Black Lives Matter, Obama said the movement was, quote, something that gave me hope, end quote. Why am I not surprised that those who called for the fundamental transformation of America find hope in the words of trained Marxists. Michelle Obama said she feared for her daughters' lives now that they're driving cars. Why? Because of all of the systemically racist cops out there. This is the tradition. This is the history. The 1619 Project. They are changing it because they know if we disconnect from our history and our traditions, we no longer are America. They want us to believe that everything is racist, bigoted, and everyone is full of hate. They want us to believe that the Pilgrims were horrible people, despite all of the actual evidence and documents. And worst of all, the most important tradition of all, the American family. That is the strength and the backbone of our culture. But just like the progressives did in the 1960s, by saying, we love you so much, they killed the black family. And look at what has happened to their culture. Look at what has happened because they broke the back of the family. That wasn't blacks that did that. That was progressive whites that did that. And now Black Lives Matter is returning the favor. They've pledged to end the nuclear family. Children are being taught in schools to be advocates and activists, to march, to join unions. They're being subjected to sexualized material. Drag queens were never part of our culture, at least the overall culture. Drag queens were a subculture. Now they are our culture. Now we have Nancy Pelosi saying drag queens are what made America what it is today. Woodrow Wilson said it was the purpose of a university to make a son as most unlike his father as possible. Well, they're doing it now in pre-K, in kindergarten. They're directly going after our grade school kids, and they're using our kids to break our families. See, this is the most sinister part of the transformation, honestly. Companies like Disney, public school boards, federal government going directly at the most vulnerable targets they can find, our children, all to re-engineer a warped view of our history, to shatter American traditions, destroy the American family. And who better to lead it for the left than Mickey frickin' Mouse? If that's not a tradition that has now been destroyed. Michelle said at the end of her statement that we are moving into a different place as a nation to provide the future we want. This is why America First is so dangerous for them. America must be subservient. America must be broken. We are not a lighthouse. We are not a city on a shining city on a hill. We're not that. If the most powerful nation that has ever existed can bow to an outside power, who will the subjects bow to? How many freedoms will they be willing to sacrifice? Our tradition of our proud military being destroyed. Who does this administration take the lead from? Every time they talk or write an executive order, I see regurgitated words from the World Economic Forum. The future Michelle spoke about is summed up with one word: subservience. That is the new America, and it is the end of the American experiment, the end of the American tradition and exceptionalism. It is the end of the nation that you and I remember. But it doesn't have to be that way.